So I'm starting to make the sponge for our focaccia pizza. And the recipe calls for 4 ounces all-purpose flour. So I'm going to scale that out. Basically, I'm just going to make everything in the bowl that I'm going to actually mix the base with to make the full dough. Calls for 1 tablespoon of yeast, half a teaspoon sugar, and a 1/3 cup of water. And I put the water in the microwave just to warm it, just till it's warm to the touch. Not too hot, but just warm. And then I'll take this and I'll just mix it till the dough comes together. Make sure everything's incorporated. And I'm just going to let this rest after the dough comes together and all the flour's mixed in. And I'm going to let it rest until probably about 3 hours, because basically you want it to rise all the way up. And then right when it starts to fall, then I'll take all the rest of the ingredients for the focaccia pizza and I'll mix that all in. So I'll knead this for a little while until the dough's together. So the dough came together. I'm going to stick it in a warm place in my kitchen. I'm going to plastic wrap it and probably let it rise for about 3 hours. And then I'll mix the rest of the ingredients in to make the dough. Added all the rest of the flour, sugar, salt, water, and extra virgin olive oil to it. Now I'm going to knead this. And right when it comes together like this, I'll knead the dough for about 10 minutes. And then I'm going to spray down the bowl with a little bit of oil, and I'm going to let it rest and rise for 2 hours. And then I'll lay it out on the pan and we'll get it going from there. So the dough has finished kneading for 10 minutes. I sprayed down the container with oil. Now I'm going to wrap it with plastic wrap and I'll let it sit for about 2 hours. Okay, so the dough has rested 2 hours. It's doubled in size. Now we're going to roll it out and put it into our sheet pan. I have a half sheet pan here. I'm going to spray some extra virgin olive oil all through the bottom of the pan. Get it nice and coated. Take my dough out. And basically I'm just going to roll it until it's the size of a half sheet pan. Get all my dough out. I'm just trying to get it all even. Lay it in the sheet pan. Get it all in the corners. Okay. spray a little bit on top, oil, a little bit of the olive oil, because I'm going to cover it again. And I'm going to let it rise again until it's doubled. And then I'll start putting all the toppings. And you want to put this back in a warm spot. And I'm putting the plastic on because I don't want a skin to form on top of the dough. Okay. It's the warmest part of my kitchen right now because I got the oven on, and I'll just sit it there, and it's probably going to take at least an hour, hour and a half. So I'm making the pizza sauce for the focaccia dough. So good whole tomatoes, putting it in a food meal, and I'm going to rice it through this thing. I'm going to make the pizza sauce for the focaccia. These are just whole tomatoes. Try to get the best ones that you can buy, for flavor. I strained off majority of the sauce right in there in the can, and I'm just going to chop this like. I like mine a little chunky, and then if you don't like chunky, you put it in a food meal, and you can do it that way. I'm just trying not to incorporate too much air in it. Or you can put it in a blender, and you can blend away. Okay? So I'll take that. I'll take a little bit of oregano, crush it in between my fingers. A little extra virgin olive oil. Pepper. Some salt for flavor, and then I'll mix it. That's basically all you need for your sauce for your pizza. So today I'm making some pesto. Have some basil, just picked from my garden. Extra virgin olive oil. We only had pistachio, or not pistachios, but cashews, so I'm going to use cashews. So I lightly chopped them. I got Parmesan cheese, garlic, and salt. And I'm going to pick all these stems off the basil first. And I like to blanch them, so I'm going to boil some water with a little bit of salt in it. I'm going to blanch the basil until it gets soft. I'm going to take it out, drain it, and then put it in an ice bath. So I have 2 cups of basil. I'm going to blanch it in boiling salted water. And this process is probably going to take maybe a minute. Not very long at all. Basil's a very delicate leaf, so it doesn't take very long to. So the reason why I do this is because working in a restaurant, I've always blanched things to keep it as green as possible. You can also just take the leaves and put them into a blender or Robocoo and do them that way. As the motor heats up and it spins more, you lose some of the color because the product gets hot and it loses a lot of its green. So this is why I do this, so I don't have to mix it so much. And it keeps really nice and dark green. Okay, just came back to a boil. I'll mix it one more time. And it's done. I'm going to strain it off now, and then I'm going to put it on an ice bath. So I took the basil out of the ice bath. I put it in a towel, and I turned it as tight as I could just to get all the water out of it. And now I'll put that in the blender and get going. So I added everything into the bowl, or into the mixer, blender. I added about a 1/4 cup of Parmesan grated in there. And probably add 1/2 cup of olive oil in the beginning. Didn't start moving, so I'll add another 1/2 cup. And we're going to need a little more. Basically, I'll taste it and make sure it's seasoned. It's pretty good. Everything else got mixed together. Everything got grinded up. And it's deep, dark green. Good. Doubled in size. See, it's almost popping out of the pan right now. Now we're going to put our toppings on. Here's the sauce that I made earlier, the marinara. We also had some pesto. We had some basil out back, so I made some pesto, so I'll do 1/2 of that for a veggie topping. We have yellow squash, zucchini, sliced red onion, or sliced onions. And then over here for my son, who's only a meat lovers, we got Italian sausage. We have some ribeye steak that we had left and some meatballs that I made. So here, we'll start off with the veggie. Okay, put the zucchini down. Basically, I'm just going to shingle it on there. And then what I'm thinking about doing is not putting any cheese on here because it takes about 30 minutes for this to bake. And I think I'm going to let it bake for 30 minutes. And then I'm going to pull it out and then put the cheese on top of it in the last 10 minutes or so. I'm going to let it bake. So we have that, and then now let's do our zucchini, our yellow squash. Thinly shaved onions over the top of that. Okay, that's good there. Season it with a little salt. Little black pepper. And then I'm gonna squirt a little bit of extra virgin over the top. Just for some more flavor and a little browning. Then we'll do the marinara. Trying to get everything spread out evenly as I put it down there. The ribeye steak on there. And the meatballs. Okay, and currently I have the oven at 475. Okay, as soon as I put it in, I'm going to drop the temperature down to 375. And then we're going to cook it for 30 minutes. Halfway in between the process, I'm going to turn the pan. Okay, so it just came out. That was exactly 30 minutes. Okay, I'm going to add a little pepper flake to the veggie side. Then we're adding the mozzarella cheese. I'm going to grate some fresh Parmesan on top. It's probably going to go back in the oven for about another 10 minutes till the cheese is nice and melted and bubbly. So 10 minutes went by, I just pulled it out. Cheese is nice and brown and melted. I'm gonna let it rest about 10 minutes and then we're gonna start digging in.